This next section is 11 slides long, as you can see here, and I'm not going to go slide by slide through this, but I'm going to show you a few tricks and give you a few pieces of advice about installing drivers in Windows. First of all, this thing mentions that the easiest way to install a driver is to use the plug-and-play capability to automatically detect new hardware, and what we're talking about here is that that wizard in Windows, the add a device wizard in Windows. In other words, when you plug a device in, it often prompts you to add a device, and then you can go to the device manager, and we already did this once, and you'll see that the device will be listed here. And I don't have, in this case, I don't have one that is not working, but you would see a device that does not have a driver installed, and you might want to install it, if it's not installed, by right-clicking and saying update driver or install driver, and then go through this, try to search automatically for drivers or browse my computer for drivers. The problem with this is, as I mentioned earlier, the driver that comes directly from Microsoft may only have functionality, basic functionality for that device. Now that might be fine for some devices, but for other devices, it's much, much better to have the manufacturer's driver rather than Microsoft's basic driver. And so I don't usually recommend going this route. I usually recommend going directly to the manufacturer. So for example, let me open here a browser window, and I have here, let's see, next to me I have my printer. I have an Epson ET 3580 printer. I'm going to type driver download, and we'll go to the support for that, and I'll choose my OS. I'm using Windows 11, and here are the drivers. Now here I have some options. I can get the remote print driver. That's if I want to be able to print over the internet from another location. A printer driver. This is the basic printer driver here. I could just download the basic printer driver, or I could get the utilities along with it. This would include utilities such as a scan program. Now, if I could get the basic printer driver, it will still do scanning and all of those kinds of things, but it wouldn't have a program to do scanning. So if I have my own scanning program that I like to use, for example, that would be, I might want this one. And then here they have one that just has another scan utility called Scan 2 utility. I don't particularly like the Epson scan utilities. I tried these. I uninstalled them and then just reinstalled the printer driver by itself. And you can see here that it tells exactly what I'm getting along with this. So in this case, I installed this one, and then in my own scanning utilities. It also, by the way, these utilities also have an update utility, the Event Manager Software Updater. I don't particularly like those running on my system all the time and bogging my system down. So I just chose, in my case, the regular print driver, right? So I didn't have all those extra things down here. So that's how you would do it. You would download and then run the exe file on that download. Now, after having done that, let's go to the device manager again. At any time, let's see, let's pick a network adapter, for example. At any time, you can try to update it and search automatically. Most of the time, you'll find that the best driver is already installed. I can also, let me disable the device. That will disable this driver. And there you'll see it has a little black down arrow on it. So I know that this is now disabled. I can now enable it. There we go. I can uninstall the device. Now if I uninstall the device, the driver doesn't go away. The driver is still there. Uninstall. And now you see that it disappeared from the list. Well, now what do I do? Well, I can go into Action and then scan for hardware changes. And it will scan for it and it will discover it and then allow me to reinstall that driver because the driver is already still there. Well, this may take a while. I might not make you wait to watch for it, but it will find that device and it will put it back in here. All right? I'm not going to make you wait for that right now. So there are several options you have in the device manager to mess around with those drivers. And if you're having trouble with the driver, I often recommend you uninstall the driver. That way you can install a new driver, a different driver, say from the manufacturer, and fix those problems that way if you have a bad driver or a driver that's interfering with a correct driver. Go back to the device manager for a minute. And let's pick a device here again. We'll pick network adapter again. All right, so let's go here under the general tab. By the way, you'll have different tabs for different things. For example, this one has power management options that I can change, resources such as the memory range and something called the IRQ, which is how it can interrupt the CPU and tell the CPU that it needs attention and so on. But anyway, under general, here it says this device is working properly. It tells me what the device type, the manufacturer, where it's located. It's located on the PCI bus and so on. Under advanced here, I have some interesting options. So for example, with several network adapters, right here I can change the apparent MAC address on, I can't on this particular one, but I can change the apparent MAC address of network adapters right here on some. Under driver, here are driver details, and I can see exactly which files. In this case, I've got two files, a sys file and a DLL file. I didn't mention these earlier, that are being used by this device for driver information. So I can see exactly what files they're using. And again, if I'm having trouble with this particular device, I could actually go in and delete these files if I need to in order to install other files. So that's a good troubleshooting technique. I wanted to go to details here. This is a really interesting technique that a lot of people are not aware of. If I open up the details tab and then go down to hardware IDs, I can see the exact number that I need for this device in order to find a driver online. So if I just right click here and say copy, now I can go online. I can do a Google search for that particular device, and now I can very quickly find drivers for that specific device. So it's a lot easier to find drivers now for that device. And a lot of people, as I said, are unaware of that. Now you notice that there were several options there. Let's go back. Let's go back to the properties, details. These are more and more specific. So if you don't find something under the most specific one, you can just go down to the next one and try that one. And if you still can't find that specific one, then you go down to the next one and try that one. You know, you might find, for example, here's a revision 3 of this particular model and so on. And so you can work your way back from the most specific to the least specific version of that driver. So this is this hardware ID thing is really, really helpful for finding the driver for the item, especially if you don't know what that item is. Now I have one here that's not working correctly according to this, and it turns out I don't need that. This driver is actually doing the work that I need for this device, and I could remove that. I'm going to go ahead and uninstall that device right there, because this other one is doing the work that I need for that device. All right. So anyway, that's it about drivers, and I hope this is a little bit helpful. Maybe some stuff you haven't seen before about installing and managing drivers.